Hello, everyone. I hope you're doing okay today. So, on today's topic of discussion, I thought to talk a little bit about routines because everyone likes to be in a regular routine with things. And I understand that this can really help with your goal. But I honestly find that we're sometimes a little bit rigid with our ways, and sometimes this can affect our goals. So you could be like this all or nothing type of person, and something happens, like say for instance, you have a stressful situation. It could be something to do with family, work commitments, social life, anything like this at all. And it just affects you becoming consistent with your goal. It could potentially promote some form of restriction as well. And that can obviously affect you maintaining the result that you want because you put pressure on the journey. As I've spoke about so many times, and this actually, someone posted something actually on my Instagram, and this is the reason why I'm gonna explain this in a little bit more detail because this has happened quite a few times. I've seen this happen with clients before. I've seen it happen with people posting on Instagram, like I did today, and it is a common trait that we generally tend to be a creature of habit and we like routine and stuff. And if something affects our routine, it can affect our mindset to say, basically, I've failed on something. You feel guilty about the process that you're on. And it could stop you in your tracks because you could be that all or nothing type of person. And usually what generally tends to happen as well is you could have two mindsets there where you feel like, okay, well, I'm just going to leave it now because I've failed on me on my goal of what I want to achieve, my process goal. Or you may just like prolong it a little bit longer with this because you see you failed, like it might be like a certain meal that you've consumed or something and you've said, well, I failed on my meal now, so I might as well wait until tomorrow, or might as well wait until Monday, or when the kids go back to school, or whatever it is, and you sort of like prolong it a little bit more. Or it could be the fact that you feel like you failed on something with your routine, and you just tend to promote a little bit of restriction and put a little bit more pressure on yourself to reach the goal that you want. And we all know, as I say, what I've spoke about in podcasts, YouTube channels, over on my Instagram, that when we promote this restriction, it just affects that journey that you're going down a little bit more. And I'm just going to give you some tips and ideas with regards to this as well, just to help you out on the journey that you're going down. And I think one thing I wanted to bring up was the fact that how you could potentially make up for this as well. So what generally tends to happen sometimes is if we feel like we've not been able to complete a certain task, it could be the fact that you've maybe consumed something which you didn't necessarily want to consume. Like I generally tend to, like I've spoke about so many times before, that I like to have pizza on a Friday. It's a Monday today for me, and I might have consumed a pizza on a Monday, and like that's not something that is in line with my goal as such. I didn't necessarily plan to have it on that day. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to restrict myself and put more pressure on myself. Or I'm just going to forget about it and just like move my goal to one side. Or what can I potentially do to make that process flow as well as possible? Well, one thing I could potentially do is I could say to myself, okay, well, it's one meal. It's not necessarily going to affect my goals. One meal out of everything that I've been doing consistently. I'm obviously going to jump back on board, draw a line. And also as well, what could you potentially change to still get some amazing wins here? Well, I could potentially eat that food that I usually have on a Monday evening because I consumed a pizza. Well, I'm just going to move that to a Friday. And that could potentially solve the issue. It could be like your exercise as well. Mondays can sometimes be a little bit of a task to get yourself motivated, to get yourself started on things. You might have had a really stressful day at work, and you're driving home and you're just thinking to yourself, you know what, I just don't really feel like training today. I feel absolutely shattered, mentally tired as well. It could affect your goal a little bit more, and you may not want to go and do an exercise session. And sometimes they're the times that matter the most. But if this happens where you do skip that exercise session, it's not the end of the world. Routines are always there to be broken sometimes, and being able to become flexible with your lifestyle, at what you live on a regular basis, so your family, work commitments, your social life, stuff like that, can usually push your process goals to one side. So could you potentially move your exercise session to another day? As long as you complete in the week, it doesn't necessarily matter too much. I honestly find that that's so important, to make sure that we do move things around a little bit more and complete that week. And the second point I wanted to bring up was the averages with things as well, because averages matter over time, as I've spoken so many times before. And it could be potentially the fact that you're counting calories as well, and you maybe consume slightly more calories on a certain day. Could you potentially maybe just reduce them down ever so slightly in that next meal, or within your next day, for instance, which is not actually promoting too much restriction, because you may have just consumed something like a meal or something along the lines of that for one meal, and it's not necessarily been a great deal of calories that you've overconsumed. So you could potentially take that away in your next meal, or you could potentially take that away within the next day of your allowance for your calories. And maybe like just look at the amount of food, the calories that you consume in a week. Why is everyone like focused so much on the calories every single day? Why not focus on your averages throughout the week? Okay, this is my bank of calories now, and I've maybe consumed a little bit more on that Monday, but I can maybe just reduce it down. I could reduce it down like throughout the week as well, maybe like 100 calories or something like that, like each day or something along the lines, and it just gets you the goal that you want to achieve. And there you go, you're not feel guilty for what you've done. You can still get that goal that you want, and it may have been something that you actually wanted at that time as well. You just felt like having it at the time, which is perfectly normal. Sometimes spur of the moment things, it could be the fact that, like, I don't know, you're in work or something, it's someone's birthday and the birthday cake comes out and you consume it. It tasted great at the time, but then feel guilty afterwards. Really, should we be feeling guilty for having something like that? Could we not potentially look at maybe changing a few things around, so we're still getting the goal that we want and we're still enjoying the process? So I actually find that that's very, very important as well. And there was one thing I wanted to bring up with regards to why this happens as well, and solving that, because some people, like, what they'll generally tend to do is they may beat themselves up that they've consumed something, or they've not been able to hit the steps or their exercise for the day or week or whatever else, but they don't necessarily look at the reasons behind why this is happening, and that is very, very important to be considering with your goal. So what I want to bring up with this is it could be the fact that your sleep patterns out, or you're not taking time for yourself, you're not reducing stress down, and finding ways to have time for yourself and your own thoughts is an important part of the process. You're managing your work quite well. Are you planning things okay and stuff like that? Are you overtraining? All of these things that you could potentially be looking at as well. It could be hydration. It could be the fact that you've been sat down all day working from home, and it's putting a little bit more stress on you. And all of these things that you potentially could be doing just to change a few things around could really, really help you out with your goal. Because you need to be open-minded with this, because that could affect these things that I've just mentioned then, of why that's happening, which is putting potential stress on the situation. You may want to, consume certain types of foods just to make yourself feel better, and using food as a form of coping, or you skip that exercise session because you just don't feel like it at the time because you're a little bit stressed out and stuff like that, or you're low on energy levels and you're tired and stuff. So these things matter, and being open-minded about that is very, very important as well. So I think that was one thing that I wanted to bring up with you, is find the reasons why. And this is a thing that I do all the time with clients, is, you know, they'll fill out food diaries and stuff, and they'll be maybe tracking calories. And what they generally tend to do is, once they've like completed their food diary, I ask them to just give me like a bit of a journal of how their day's been. So it could be the fact that they've, you know, their sleep patterns out, or they've not necessarily had the best night's sleep, or they're training quite a bit and the intensity's been quite like high at the moment. And I'll look at their exercises that they've been delivering. It could be just something which you can't necessarily change as well. This is probably another thing, is some things are going to get propped up, and you know that's potentially that's just life, and you can't necessarily get out of that as well. It could be something that's happened which has put stress on the situation, and it's affected your goal, and it's important to just accept that stress is always going to be around, and stuff like that, and being able to draw that line is so important. And you know, if your goal is priority and you want to make sure that you get the wins that you want, it's important to assess all these things on a constant basis, because they will help you enjoy the process a little bit more. You'll feel like you've got a little bit more of a happier lifestyle as well. You've not put too much restriction on the process as well, and it can help you out. And probably one of my last points that I want to bring up with you guys today is just becoming a little bit more organized and planning your days out right. Because the people I generally tend to work with on a regular basis constantly are busy working professionals. So they have meetings, emails, and they're having to, you know, commute everywhere and stuff like this now, with obviously the restrictions generally tending to ease now. This is going to happen a little bit more. They're going to be commuting to places. You know, they might have kids. They've got commitments with that. They want to have a social life as well. So they're trying to plan all of these things in. And that can affect the goal and the process that you're on about. And sometimes we do need to plan ahead. And I say to my clients every Sunday, because Sunday is always a good day to do, isn't it? It's like most of the time, that's the time when people have got a little bit more time on the hands to just plan ahead for the week ahead, because people have crazy busy lives, usually Monday to Friday. That's usually generally tends to be the case, unless you're working shifts and stuff like that. And what I generally tend to get for people to do is you know, National Food Prep Day, or just Preparation Day on a Sunday. And that doesn't necessarily think, like, I'm not necessarily saying you should be prepping your foods and putting it in a Tupperware box or anything like that, and that's how we do, and just getting all your foods in. It's more about other things as well. That could be one of the things that you could potentially do, but it could be like, you know, your timings of when you generally tend to want to have your foods in and stuff like that, because you've got loads of meetings in. It might be the fact that you need to be grabbing on the go because you're out and about and stuff like this. You may want to prep your foods and put in a Tupperware box to take to work with you, because it's a little bit more convenient and practical for you. Yeah, and it could be that you're eating out as well with friends, social event that's come up, or it could be a meeting as well. I know there's a lot of clients that I have who have meetings, and they're meeting up in restaurants and pubs and cafes and stuff like that. You know, and they're getting their lunch there, so they need to make sure they plan ahead and have an understanding in their mind of what foods they could potentially choose, which is in line with their goals. Because it does get a little bit more difficult. I actually find it gets a little bit more challenging when these things happen. And as long as you become a little bit more prepared and know that we need to make sure that we plan these things in place, and we have a little bit more understanding and education. As I say, I bring up education all the time, and I think that's important to know having a, you know, mindset and, you know, knowledge base of when you get into a cafe or a restaurant, that you can go, you know what, I'm going to pick this one because that in lines with me go a little bit more. You could potentially go low fat, low carbohydrate, one or the other, I would say as well with that. So you're reducing your calories down. It could be a certain drink that you go to pick as well, or you maybe save your calories a little bit more for that that eating out scenario or something along the lines of that. So it's just little things like that, guys, because that can really help you out with the process, because the last thing you want to do is just say no to things as well and be all or nothing type of person, because if you are, then it's just going to affect the journey that you're going down. Willing to accept that, routines are going to be broken sometimes is an important part of the process. So I hope that makes sense. If you have any questions at all with regards to any of the information I've brought up today, guys, please let me know. If you find this content helpful as well, please share it on your stories. That's always really, really helpful as well. Obviously, you can follow me on Instagram. You can come into my fat loss support group as well. So feel free to DM me, and I'm happy to send you some details across for the free fat loss support group. And if you want to follow me on Instagram, I'm at Dan at Fresh Lifestyle Fitness. Any other questions at all, guys, please let me know. Feel free to let me know any other information that you need help and support with, and I will speak to you all soon.